What's happening, Tilray traders and investors? It's Rod with Power Group. Welcome back on The Pursuit of Wealth, your home for MJ stocks, crypto assets, news, and interviews, also home to the best MJ community. Today is Tuesday, February 20th. Hope you had a great long weekend, and I hope you're doing well. In this video, we're going to be discussing Tilray brands. We'll take a look at the TLRY chart on the NASDAQ. I'll do some technical analysis. I'll give my thoughts and opinions on what to expect in terms of price action in the days, weeks, months ahead. And I'll get over the bull and bear scenarios. As always, though, this is not financial advice. You should never ever buy or sell anything based on anything that I say, anything that I write. And full disclosure, I do own Tilray in my portfolio. So like I said, I'll go over the bull and bear scenarios. We'll discuss one more potential leg down, and then we'll look at a potential bullish reversal pattern that is on the chart that is forming at the moment as well. Before we get to it though, make sure to smash the like. It helps support me in the channel and it doesn't cost you anything. If you're new, you can subscribe, tick the bell, all that good stuff. You'll be notified on any future videos or when I go live. You can also give us a follow over on X, which is formerly Twitter. The handle for that is @GroupPow. Going to be using that as my platform of choice going forward. I mentioned a while back that the possibility that Tilray brands could see another dilutionary event was very probable because of the fact that they're still not yet profitable, and something that we have to be real with ourselves, right? When it comes to investing, when it comes to any kind of stock, not just MJ, right? We have to look at, what does the balance sheet look like? What does their profitability look like, right? What are the growth catalysts that are on the horizon? And right now there's so many growth catalysts, but the fact remains that Tilray still is yet to turn a profit. So when a company is not profitable, they only have so many options to keep the lights on and to keep the business operating, right? So in Tilray's case, and the case of MJ, we're just waiting for massive catalysts, which could absolutely explode the sector, right? So there's risk, but there's a lot of reward as well. So when a company like Tilray is not profitable, they can issue shares, they can, tap the equity markets, they can get non-dilutive type of financing as well. But as we know with the MJ industry, a lot of banks and institutions are reluctant to lend companies capital, and it's very hard for some of these companies to obtain that. So a way that's very common is to issue shares through dilution, right? And in this case, this was from February 6th. I mentioned this many months ago. I said we need to be on the lookout for another potential dilutionary event. And if you remember, and it was shortly after this came out, Canopy Growth to raise $35 million in a private placement. So it was shortly after this news broke that, and there was some shenanigans there. They started at 30 million, and they dropped it, and then they upped it to 35 million. And that's something that we could see potentially in the cards for Tilray, and that's exactly what we saw. Tilray Brands issued 6.87 million shares in exchange for 12.5 million of 5.25% convertible senior notes due June 1st of this year, right? Not a huge amount of shares, so it's not the end of the world, but we had that news with Canopy, and then today, Aurora MJ appoints new CFO and consolidates its shares. So they did a reverse split, another reverse split. They did a 1-for-12 a couple of years ago, and then they just did another 1-for-10, right? And a lot of people are speculating and kind of worried that Tilray could potentially do a reverse split, and there could be more dilution, right? And there was a little bit of there was a tiny bit of dilution, but the fact that, Aurora is doing a reverse split, Canopy just did a reverse split, tons of companies in the space have done reverse splits, is kind of making people a little worried that we could potentially see something similar for Tilray. And now that Tilray had a bit more dilution, that's starting to raise some eyebrows and certainly increase the probability that we see a reverse split among retail investors. That's what people are thinking, because that's the path that most MJ companies in Canada are on. I personally don't think that they're going to do a reverse split, but ever since that news broke on February 6th, the stock is down almost 12%. And the whole sector has been bleeding out today. ACB really weighed on this sector. You can see Aurora was down at the end of the day at close, down over 11% at the moment. So right now, the whole sector is just bleeding out, and we're just waiting for a growth catalyst, which is going to be rescheduling, in my opinion. I think we're going to get rescheduling to Schedule 3 as the next most probable step, and then we'll eventually get descheduling. I think descheduling is where we'll ultimately end up, but there's a lot that would need to happen in order for it to get descheduled. We would have to see amendments to certain treaties and things like that. So, in the Controlled Substances Act. So I don't think that's the most likely scenario here in the short to medium term. I think that's ultimately where we'll end up long term, but I think Schedule 3 is very probable between now and the end of April, which would absolutely ignite the sector. Also, the MJ Act is up for review here in Canada, and they're on schedule for a spring release, which could show improvements to excise taxes. We still can't even do advertising here in Canada. So there's so much, they're basically got their hands tied behind their back as to what they can do. And there's a petition to up the edibles from 10 milligrams to 100 milligrams. And as we know, Tilray just partnered with Jones Soda for Mary Jones Soda and some other categories as well, other edibles. So that's going to be huge. And like I said, edibles are looking to increase from 10 milligrams to 100 milligrams all in due time. And I think that'll be sooner than later. But we'll take a look at the chart here and what to expect in terms of price action in the days, weeks ahead. Like I said, I'll give you the bull and bear scenario. I've already gone over the potential daily bear flag, and it actually did confirm. So we had our high there at 254, which was the high of the earnings reaction on January 9th. And then that was right around the same time Canopy came out with this news about the private placement. And like I said, that gave a lot of people the jitters and less than awesome earnings, and we plunged, right? So once we lost 184, it was a weak bounce here. We were unable to get above, the 0.32 there, and we hit the high there at 212. In order to negate it, we needed to get over 211 convincingly on the NASDAQ, so USD, and we failed to do so. It was basically a double top right there at that 0.32, and then failed to get above it. Weak bounce, came down, lost $1.84. Once we lost $1.84, that confirmed the daily bear flag. And then you just take your measured move from the high to the low, move it out to your 0.32 fib, and it says we were targeting about 154. And we actually did confirm it, and we've seen about 6% of downside since confirming that daily bear flag. Now, that is the bear thesis. And we have key monthly support there at 161 as we're looking to form a monthly higher low and change the monthly trend. I've done a post on my community page here on YouTube. If you go over here to the community tab, I said these names are in monthly uptrends. So you can see here Curaleaf, AYR, Green Thumb, Trulieve, MSOS, IIPR, Verano, TerraSense, C21, Grown Rogue, and Nova MJ. Those are the names already in monthly uptrends, and Tilray is very close to doing so. It already has its low, its high of the bounce. It's forming the monthly higher low there at 161. So right now it's all about monthly support rather at 161. If we lose 161, then it's the all-time low test at 150. And that's not what bulls want to see, right? We want to see this key support hold at 161. But we'll take a look at the the bull scenario here as well. It is a potential inverse head and shoulders that's forming, which is a bullish reversal pattern. And you can see where we have our left shoulder head forming. It's a little early. We still need to see the right shoulder. So the right shoulder would come here potentially over the next several days. But again, if we lose support here at 175, then that's going to negate the odds of this inverse head and shoulders. So short term, the most immediate support is 175. That's also a double bottom on weekly support. And the weekly uptrend is still intact as long as we hold 175. So that's going to be another crucial level as well. If we lose 175, then we're more than likely heading to 161. And then it's, bulls, that's a line in the sand. Bulls have to defend that support, as that would not allow a lot of breathing room down to 150 for that monthly higher low to form. So bulls need to step in here soon, and they could definitely use a headline or some kind of catalyst to catapult us. But as of right now, we'll see how the buying pressure continues around that support to see if bulls defend that support. But 175 is crucial, because if we lose that, we're no longer in a weekly uptrend. And then we're more than likely heading down to that 161 support. And it's also going to negate the inverse head and shoulders if we lose 175, which would mean that we would still be in a daily downtrend and see another lower high and lower low. But to couple this with the bull scenario, we could see a potential EMA 12 and 26 bull cross over the next few days as well, which would add some more confidence to the fact that we could potentially see a bounce back up to the neckline and a potential right shoulder here if we do see those EMA if we do see that bull cross on the EMAs play out. We could also see a weekly EMA 12 and 26 bull cross that is forming here over the next few weeks. And we have another potential golden cross forming here with the 50-day just below the 200-day moving average set to cross. That would be considered a golden cross. Last time that happened, price went from, we'll just inspect this here. Last time that happened, price went from that low at 150 all the way up to 340, right? So a huge move off that golden cross, and we had another death cross, price cratered, and now we're seeing another bullish cross potential. And then, like I said, bullish crosses on the daily and weekly EMAs as well. So like I said, it's all about support and resistance at this point. We're looking at 175, lose 175, that negates the inverse head and shoulders thesis, and then we're more than likely heading down to 161, and then it's all out. Bulls must defend that support at that point, or there's going to be a lot of panic in the stock. And we're going to be watching the S&P 500 as well to see if there's any further continuation to the downside there, because we are showing a little bit of weakness and just a healthy correction on the S&P 500. So we're not set up that well if the S&P 500 continues to see more weekly consolidation and downside from here. But that is the bull and bear scenario. But like I said, it's all about 175 from here. After that, 161 is the must-hold level. And then we'll look to potentially confirm a monthly uptrend if we hold that support and break 340 from here. But like I said, in terms of the weekly time frame, we did have a stochastic bear cross as well. So we had some cracks in the armor here. We lost the 10-week moving average shortly thereafter. And then we had a MACD bear cross. But the good thing is we got those crosses out of the way. And now we're potentially gearing up for another bull cross of the stochastic and the MACD over the next few weeks. So we're finally starting to see some selling exhaustion at the moment. And then we're below all the weekly moving averages as well. So if bulls can get a weekly candle close over 213, we would start to shift the momentum and trend back to that 100 weekly there at 293. And a lot of their names are starting to trend back to their 100 weekly moving average. MSOS, you can see here, it's trying to backtest it and hold it as support after getting above it and breaking through that resistance. And then there's names like GTBIF, which are getting very close to their 200 weekly moving average. So if Tilray were to do something similar, which we would expect, because if the whole sector moves together, right, it's right now rescheduling, safer banking, uplisting of the NYSE and the NASDAQ is going to benefit the MSOs more. So it's naturally, it's not surprising to see, it's natural to see MSOS seeing, respective upside and bullish momentum, right? But that should trickle down into the LPs, especially if we get a headline really any month now from the DEA approving Schedule 3 recommendation. These names like Tilray, your Canopies, your SNDLs, your High Tides, the ones that are listed on US major exchanges, they're going to get the majority of the floodgates and the the money that starts to pour in, right? And that's going to be the first thing that people start to buy, is because a lot of people still don't have access to OTC or the Canadian exchanges. Think of people that are in the US, right? They can't buy OTC, they can't buy in the Canadian exchanges. I know people in Europe that can't buy even MSOS. They're restricted to only NASDAQ names, and they can't even buy MSOS. It's only names like Tilray, Canopy, SNDL, High Tide, right? So what does that tell you? When we get a headline, these names are going to absolutely erupt. So like I said, if we were to just follow suit with the MSOs and USMJ, like I said, the sector moves together, but not down to the day, the second, the minute. But overall, on a monthly, yearly time frame, usually we start to trend the same direction, right? And we move in tandem. And right now, I think we could potentially act as a laggard. And again, if we were to get close to that 200 weekly moving average, similar to what some of the US producers are doing, that'd put us around that $7 price tag for Tilray. And like I said, trying to see this golden cross occur as well, with the 50-day there at 201 and the 200-day moving average at 209. So like I said, we're looking at resistance levels. We're looking at support levels. Like I said, 175, then 161 in terms of resistance. We're looking at key resistance here at around $2 USD, right? That $2 psychological mark. And then after that, it's the high that bounced at 212. And then we have a lack of resistance until 254. But the most important resistance long-term is 340. Break that, we're in a monthly uptrend, and we join the rest of this pack, right? And I think more than likely we're going to see like a High Tide confirm a monthly uptrend first in Canada. And then we'll probably see like a Tilray after that. It's one of the closest. If you take a look at like the OGI chart, for example, organogram, it just started the monthly bounce and it hasn't even formed a monthly high or low yet. Forget about the higher high. It hasn't even done the high or low yet. Tilray's already done the higher low, and it's working on the higher high, right? So I think High Tide could be one of the first in Canada, minus Nova MJ. Nova MJ already in a monthly uptrend, but I think High Tide could be next, and then a name like Tilray shortly thereafter. If you actually go to like a Canna Cabana, which is owned by High Tide, it's pretty much all Tilray products now. The whole fridge, the beverage fridge was all Tilray, and pretty much all the products, pre-rolls, flour, everything that I see is pretty much all Tilray. They've got a #1 position market share here in Canada, and rightly so. They're the biggest, and they're going to be an absolute powerhouse in my opinion. They're not going anywhere. I'm not worried about that dilution news. I'm not worried about a potential reverse split. Even if they did, it's not the end of the world. There's been tons of companies, like I said, Aurora already did a 1 for 12, and they just did a 1 for 10 today. So even if Tilray were to do like a 1 for 2 or 1 for 4 reverse split, it wouldn't be the end of the world. And I don't think that's the most likely scenario, though. I'm prepared for it. Anything can happen, but I don't think that's the most likely scenario. So going into it there, let me know your thoughts and opinions. Do you think that we could see further dilution? Do you think that we could see a reverse split? Always love hearing from you. I think another dilutionary event could potentially be in the cards at some point, as I think it'll be another 3 or 4 quarters before we see any real profitability metrics being met. But like I said, I do think that the most likely scenario is we don't do a reverse split and we regain, or we just continue the momentum back to the bulls organically. All right, going down there, it's Rod with Power Group. Thanks again for joining us in the pursuit of wealth. Hope you have a fantastic evening, and we'll see you again on the next video.